The galaxy had long been divided between powerful empires and lesser species. Among the most feared of these empires was the Thalith Dominion, a race of advanced warriors known for their ruthlessness. Their empire stretched across countless star systems, subjugating weaker species in their quest for dominance. In their capital, a singular tragedy unfolded, one that would shake the balance of power across the stars. Princess Lyra, the heir to the Thalith throne, had been kidnapped. The attackers were an extremist faction from within their own empire, plotting to overthrow her father, Emperor Excelkor. Despite the princess's high status and the fearsome might of the Thalith, no one dared to intervene. The Thalith were powerful, but their political infighting was legendary. Anyone who interfered risked being drawn into a lethal power struggle that could consume entire planets. In a distant corner of the galaxy, Marcus Drake, a former Terran Marine, was on a quiet planet, far removed from the chaos of the larger galactic struggles. He had left behind his days of fighting, and had chosen a life of solitude after the wars that devastated Earth's colonies. Humanity had been labeled as a second-rate species, courageous but under-equipped in the face of galactic powers like the Thalith. As Marcus enjoyed a rare moment of peace, his communicator buzzed with a call. He hesitated, not wanting to return to the life he had walked away from. But as the message played, he recognized the voice, an old ally from his military days, one who now worked covertly among the Thalith. The message was brief. The Thalith princess has been captured. If she falls, the galaxy will descend into war, but no one will step forward. You're the only one I trust, Marcus. Against his better judgment, Marcus felt the familiar pull of duty tug at him. He had left the battlefield, but he couldn't leave someone in danger, even if it meant crossing an empire known for its brutality. With his old gear stowed away in a hidden cache, Marcus prepared for the impossible task, rescuing an alien princess from the heart of the most dangerous power in the galaxy. The Thalith Dominion's capital planet, Viril, was an intimidating sight. Vast metallic spires pierced the atmosphere, and their military presence was so overwhelming that even a lone starship approaching without clearance would be blown apart before it could get within visual range. Yet Marcus had no intention of storming the planet head-on. His plan required subtlety, stealth, and the element of surprise. As Marcus' small, modified ship glided toward the surface, he bypassed patrols and sensors, using a series of secret channels provided by his contact. The ship itself was cloaked in advanced technology, enough to evade the Thalith's standard defenses. The landing was smooth, and Marcus quickly disembarked, blending into the shadows of the capital city. His mission was clear: get in, extract the princess, and leave without drawing the attention of the entire empire. He had acquired an entry point into the palace's underbelly, a labyrinth of tunnels and catacombs used by insurgents and criminals alike. It was a dangerous route, but it was the only way to remain undetected. As he made his way through the twisting passages, Marcus thought about the weight of his task. Saving a princess wasn't just about rescuing a noble, it was about preventing a galactic war. The Thalith were on the verge of internal collapse, and if the royal line fell, there would be no stopping the chaos that would follow. The tunnels led to a forgotten section of the palace, a place even the Thalith guards rarely patrolled. When Marcus emerged from the shadows, he found himself just below the dungeons. It was here that the princess was being held, according to the intel he'd received. 2 guards stood outside her cell, imposing figures in black armor. Marcus took a deep breath and pressed his back against the wall, listening carefully. Timing was everything. He waited for the perfect moment, then struck swiftly, disabling both guards in a blur of motion. Neither had the chance to sound the alarm. He approached the cell cautiously, peering inside. There, sitting on the cold metal floor, was Princess Lyra. Her silver hair cascaded down her back, and her violet eyes, though filled with a quiet intensity, showed no fear. She had been raised as a warrior, like all Thalith, but she was vulnerable now, trapped in a political game far beyond her control. Marcus deactivated the cell's energy field and stepped inside. "Princess Lyra?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. She looked up, surprised by his presence. "Who are you?" she demanded, though her tone was more curious than hostile. "Marcus Drake. I'm here to get you out." Lyra hesitated, studying the human before her. She had heard tales of the Terrans, scrappy fighters, clever tacticians, but ultimately, their race was seen as weak compared to the dominant species of the galaxy. Yet, here stood one, alone, with the audacity to rescue her from her captors. "Why would a human risk their life for me?" she asked, her voice guarded. Marcus met her gaze. "Because if you fall, the galaxy burns. I may not be Thalith, but I've seen enough wars to know when something needs to be stopped." For a moment, Lyra remained silent. Then, without another word, she rose to her feet, her poise regal even in captivity. "Very well," she said, "but if we're going to make it out of here, you'll need my help as much as I need yours." The two formed an uneasy alliance as they navigated their way through the palace, avoiding guards and security measures. Lyra, despite being royalty, was no stranger to combat. Her knowledge of the palace's secret passages proved invaluable as they moved closer to the surface, where Marcus' ship awaited their escape. But as they reached the final corridor leading to freedom, an unexpected figure blocked their path. Kroll, the leader of the insurgents who had captured Lyra. His hulking figure stood in the shadows, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "You think you can just walk out of here with the princess?" Kroll sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "You're out of your league, human." Marcus didn't flinch. He had faced worse odds before. With a quick glance at Lyra, he whispered, "Stay behind me." As Kroll advanced, Marcus and Lyra prepared for a fight that would determine not only their survival, but the future of an empire. The tension in the air was palpable as Marcus and Lyra stood side by side, facing Kroll, the leader of the insurgents who had orchestrated her kidnapping. Kroll was no ordinary Thalith. He was a seasoned warrior, his towering frame covered in scarred battle armor. His eyes gleamed with a dangerous mix of arrogance and fury. Marcus sized him up, knowing that brute strength alone wouldn't win this fight. He had faced many enemies in his years as a Terran Marine, but the Thalith were renowned for their combat prowess. Marcus had to rely on his agility and cunning to survive. Kroll let out a growl as he unsheathed a wickedly curved energy blade, its edges crackling with lethal energy. "You've made a grave mistake, human," Kroll spat. "I'll enjoy watching you beg for mercy." Without a word, Marcus readied his own weapon, a compact plasma pistol, and fired a quick burst. But Kroll was faster than he appeared. With inhuman speed, he dodged the shots and closed the distance, swinging his energy blade toward Marcus with deadly intent. Marcus barely managed to dodge, the blade grazing his shoulder and leaving a smoldering burn. Gritting his teeth against the pain, he retaliated with a powerful kick to Kroll's midsection, staggering the larger alien for a brief moment. "You fight well for a human," Kroll growled, his eyes narrowing. "But it won't be enough." Lyra, watching the battle unfold, realized that Marcus couldn't take on Kroll alone. She hadn't survived this long by being passive, and she wasn't going to let her rescuer die in front of her. With a sudden burst of speed, she lunged forward, grabbing a discarded staff from a fallen guard and swinging it with precision at Kroll's side. The strike connected, sending Kroll stumbling to the side. He snarled in rage, turning his attention to Lyra. "You dare," he hissed, raising his blade to strike her down. But Marcus was faster. Using the distraction, he rolled to the side, aiming his plasma pistol and firing off several well-placed shots. The bolt struck Kroll in the chest, sending him crashing to the floor, his armor sizzling from the plasma burns. Breathing heavily, Marcus rose to his feet, his eyes locked on the fallen insurgent leader. Kroll's body twitched slightly, but it was clear that he was done. Marcus glanced at Lyra, who had returned to a defensive stance, the staff still in her grip. "Thanks for the assist," Marcus said, offering a brief smile. Lyra gave a small nod, her violet eyes flickering with appreciation. I didn't need saving, but I'm glad you were here. Together, they moved quickly through the final corridor, emerging into the open hangar where Marcus's ship was waiting. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed behind them. Reinforcements were coming. Get on board, Marcus shouted as the ship's ramp descended. They sprinted toward the ship just as a squad of heavily armed Thalith guards appeared in the distance. As the ship's engines roared to life, Marcus took the pilot's seat and activated the cloaking mechanism. The Thalith guards, now pouring into the hangar, opened fire, but the energy bolts ricocheted off the ship's reinforced hull. Marcus steered the craft into the sky, leaving the palace behind. Lyra strapped herself into the co-pilot's seat, watching as the capital city of Viril shrank in the distance. Where will you take me now? She asked, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. Marcus adjusted the ship's trajectory, inputting a series of coordinates into the navigation console. Somewhere safe, he replied. But we need to lay low for a while. The Thalith will be hunting us. Lyra leaned back in her seat, her mind racing. She had been a pawn in a deadly game of political intrigue, and now she was in the company of a human, an outsider who had risked everything to save her. You're different from the others, she said softly. Most species wouldn't dare challenge the Thalith. Marcus shrugged, his eyes focused on the stars ahead. Humans have a tendency to do the impossible. For a moment, they sat in silence, the tension of the escape slowly fading. But Lyra knew that their troubles were far from over. The insurgents would stop at nothing to reclaim her, and the Thalith military would soon brand her a fugitive if she wasn't careful. We can't run forever, Lyra said, her voice steady. The Thalith will come for us, and when they do, we need a plan. Marcus nodded, already thinking ahead. I know some people who can help, but we'll need to be smart about this. Their journey had only just begun, but one thing was clear. Marcus and Lyra were now bound by a shared fate, their survival hinging on their ability to outmaneuver the forces chasing them. After several hours of travel, Marcus and Lyra arrived at a remote outpost on the edge of Thalith-controlled space. The outpost was little more than a cluster of hidden bunkers carved into a rocky moon, far from the prying eyes of the Dominion. Here, Marcus had a contact, an old comrade who specialized in smuggling and black market deals. His name was Jax, a grizzled former mercenary who had a reputation for getting things done. As the ship touched down, Marcus turned to Lyra. Stay close. Jax is unpredictable, but he owes me a favor. The two of them disembarked and were immediately greeted by Jax, a broad-shouldered man with a cybernetic eye and a grin that didn't quite reach his face. Marcus Drake, you've got a knack for showing up at the worst possible time. Marcus smirked. Good to see you too, Jax. We need a place to lay low. Jax's gaze shifted to Lyra, recognition flickering in his eye. Is that? Yeah, Marcus cut in. And before you ask, yes, we're in trouble. Jax chuckled, shaking his head. You always did have a thing for rescuing princesses. Inside Jax's bunker, the trio discussed their next steps. The insurgents would be relentless in their pursuit, and even if Lyra's father, Emperor Excelcor, was still in power, there was no guarantee he would be able to protect his daughter from the factions within his own empire. In the end, it was Lyra who made the call. We can't keep running. The Thalith need stability, and the insurgents need to be stopped, but we can't do it alone. Marcus agreed. We'll need allies, people who can stand up to the insurgents and the Dominion alike. With Jax's help, Marcus and Lyra began reaching out to those who had once opposed the Thalith, including former soldiers, rebels, and even rival empires. Their mission was clear: unite the galaxy's fractured powers to take down the insurgents and restore peace. The road ahead was fraught with danger, but Marcus and Lyra were determined to fight for a future where the galaxy wouldn't be torn apart by war. And as they stood together, their unlikely alliance became the spark that would ignite a revolution.